Hello students, myself Sabita Rani Sahu, lecturer of Mechanical Engineering working at Bose Cuttack, and I am presenting the topic that is balancing of machine, which is your chapter 5 of subject theory of machines of 4th sem Mechanical Engineering, right? And this topic contains your first cause and effect of unbalance, concept of balancing, difference between static and dynamic balancing. Fourth one is static balancing of rotating parts. Fifth is principles of balancing of reciprocating parts. So before starting the topic, I just want to explain that your unbalancing is the creator of balancing. That means if something will be balanced, so we need not the we need not balancing. But if something is under unbalanced condition, then only we will go for balancing. That's why I'll start with the cause of unbalance. And this cause of unbalance, here are some common causes of unbalance. And before going to the common causes of unbalance, I just want to explain one thing. Suppose we are considering a particle moving in a circular path. A particle moving in a circular path. So if the particle will move in a circular path, that will experience both centripetal force as well as centrifugal force. This centripetal force is always towards the center and your magnitude will be same. So no problem with this centripetal force, that is always balanced. But in case of centrifugal force, which is away from the center, like here you can see, if centripetal force will be there, that will be always towards the center. But in case of centrifugal force, that will be away from the center. Here the magnitude remains constant, but your direction will differ. That's why this centrifugal force is the cause of unbalancing, or this is the main disturbing force. And you can take the example of a rotor. When a rotor is revolving, the centrifugal force will remain under balance condition as long as the center of mass will lie on the axis of the shaft. Then only that will be in the balance condition. But if the center of mass will not lie on the axis of the shaft, then only your unbalancing will be arised, or unbalancing force will be produced. And this is the most common cause in case of steam turbine rotors as well as the engine crankshafts. And except this rotating part, you can consider the reciprocating part or the reciprocating machinery. In reciprocating machinery, the unbalancing will be arises due to the inertia forces. Clear? So we can just classify the unbalance as your unbalance may be rotating unbalance or reciprocating unbalance. Clear? So here this is the common causes of unbalancing. First one is overhang weight bends shaft under gravity, that will definitely bend the shaft. Second is unevenly distributed solid or liquid inside rotor, and as this is unevenly distributed, that will cause your unbalancing. Third is loose parts on the rotor will cause unbalancing. Eccentrically manufactured diameters on the rotor, that will also cause unbalancing. And last is here misalignment of bearings, that will also force the shaft. These are the some common causes of unbalance. Except these causes, there are also other causes. And due to the different causes of unbalancing, what will be the effects? Now you can see, due to this unbalancing, there will be vibration, and this vibration will create noise, and due to that noise, some people who are working near the machine or with the machine will be affected. That means the working condition will be affected, or that will create the unsafe working condition to the workers. As well as there will be vibration. So your different parts of the machine, that may be bearing or other parts, will be affected, or the life of those parts will be decreased. Definitely here readiness decreased life of bearings, and that will reduce the machine life. As the life of different parts will be reduced, that will reduce the life of the machine. And when there will be some problem or the defects in the parts, will go for maintenance, and due to the maintenance, as the machine will require maintenance again and again, that's why I am written increased maintenance. And due to this maintenance again and again, the machine will be under shutdown, and when the machine will be under shutdown, your production will be hampered. So these are the different effects of unbalance. That means from those points we concluded that we definitely not require unbalancing condition, or unbalancing is required in no way. We have to eliminate it, and we can eliminate it as more as possible. That can be eliminated completely, or that can be eliminated in acceptable manner, which is accepted. That's why our definition is balancing is the process of designing or modifying machinery so that the unbalance is reduced to an acceptable level, or if possible is eliminated entirely. Okay. Now we can classify the balancing. That is two types of balancing. One is static balancing, another one is dynamic balancing. So now we'll go for the difference. What is the basic difference between static and dynamic balancing? First we'll consider static balancing. And this static balancing, as the word says, static means the parts will be at static condition or will be at rest, and we'll go for balancing. On the other hand, in dynamic balancing, the parts will be under dynamic condition or in motion, and we'll go for balancing. Second point, static balancing refers to the force due to action of gravity, but in case of dynamic balancing, that will refer to the inertia forces. This is second difference. Thirdly, you can see in static balancing, when we are calculating that or we are analyzing that, we have to put your summation of forces will be equal to 0. Summation of forces will be equal to 0. And this, under this summation of forces will be equal to 0, there are two conditions, that is summation of horizontal 0 and summation of vertical 0. But in case of dynamic balancing, we have to put summation of couples 0 or summation of moments is equal to 0. And definitely whenever we are telling that the parts the parts are in dynamically balanced, that means definitely that is statically balanced. That's why we can put the conditions summation of forces equal to 0 and summation of moments or summation of couples will be equal to 0. That means in static balancing, this one condition should be satisfied, but in dynamic balancing, there is two conditions should be satisfied. So this is the basic difference between static balancing and dynamic balancing. Next, here the static balancing of rotating parts. In static balancing of rotating parts, you can see there are different conditions will come under this heading, but here I will discuss two conditions. One is balancing of a single rotating mass by a single mass rotating in the same plane, and in the second condition I will discuss just you replace in single rotating mass by several masses. That means balancing of several masses by a single mass rotating in the same plane. Everything will be same, only your single rotating mass will be replaced by several masses. Clear? Now, here we have considered M1. You take another one. M1 is the disturbing mass which is rotating with angular speed omega at radius r1, and this is the axis of rotation. Clear? And this M1 is the disturbing mass that is not under the balance condition. Okay. Now, to balance the M1, we are introducing or adding the mass M2 at radius r2, also that is rotating with the same angular speed omega. So, how can we balance? As M1 is rotating with the angular speed omega at radius r1, so your centrifugal force will be equal to centrifugal force, that is Fc1, 1 for mass 1, that is m1 omega square r1, and for this m2 your centrifugal force will be equal to Fc2 will be equal to m2 omega square r2. Okay. If those are under balance condition, that means we can write Fc1 is equal to Fc2. So that implies your m1 r1 omega square will be equal to m2 r2 omega square. So omega square will be cancelled out. As a result, we are getting m1 r1 is equal to m2 r2. So this is the condition. That means if in problem your radius will be given or the position will be given, you can find out the mass. If mass will be given, you can find out the radius. So this is all about your balancing of single rotating mass by a single mass rotating in the same plane. So next we will go to the second condition. Here, balancing of several masses rotating in the same plane. Okay. In the previous case, we have taken one mass, but here we have considered four masses: m1, m2, m3 and m4. m1 is at radius r1 and angle theta 1, m2 at radius r2 and angle theta 2, m3 at radius r3 and angle theta 3. Similarly, m4, that means mass 4 or fourth mass, is at radius r4 and angle theta 4. Clear? If those forces will be under balanced condition, we don't know whether they are under balanced condition or not. If those forces will be under balanced condition or the masses will be under balanced condition, that means your summation of forces will be equal to 0. That means summation of forces means your Fc1, that means centrifugal force due to mass 1, centrifugal force due to mass 2, centrifugal force due to mass 3, centrifugal force due to mass 4 will be equal to 0. If the summation will be equal to 0, that means all the masses are in the balanced state. Clear? But if the summation of forces will not equal to be 0, that means that is not under balanced condition. We have to balance it. So to make it balanced, we are introducing another mass, that is m, at radius r, and this Fc is the centrifugal force of this mass, and this angle is theta, and always we are considering the angle from the x-axis in the anticlockwise direction. Clear? So after introducing this m, how can we find out that due to the adding of m, that is under balanced condition? So that can be calculated either analytically or graphically. If we are calculating analytically, that means you have to find out your summation of horizontal and summation of vertical. Here the force Fc1, the horizontal component will be Fc1 cos theta 1 and the vertical component will be equal to Fc1 sin theta 1, and same for the m2, 3 and 4. Clear? Here what we can see, as the omega square is constant for all the masses, rather taking omega square in each term, we are taking just m1 r1 cos theta 1, m2 r2 cos theta 2, similarly m3 r3 cos theta 3, and for m4 m3 r3 cos theta 4. And your summation of vertical will be equal to m1 r1 sin theta 1 plus m2 r2 sin theta 2, similarly for 3 and 4. So after calculating this horizontal component and vertical component, now we can find out the centrifugal force, that is Fc is equal to root over of summation of horizontal square plus summation of vertical square. And what will be the angle? Tan theta is equal to summation of vertical divided by summation of horizontal. And from this equation you can find out the value of theta. Theta will be equal to tan inverse of this one. That is the position of mass or balanced mass. And here another thing I want to tell, that as we have already eliminated that omega square, we are writing this, and here we can write your mr, that means mass and radius, the product of mass and radius will be equal to the root over of this summation of horizontal, whatever data you will put, you will calculate. Clear? So in problem you can put directly, as well as you will find out the angle. Also this is the analytical method, and here in graphical method you have to just draw the vector diagram for all the forces. You can draw the vector diagram of all the forces, or you can draw the vector diagram of the product of mass and radius. Like in place of Fc1 you can draw the product of m1 r1. Okay. So after drawing the vector diagram, that will, according to the polygon law, your closing side of the polygon will represent the resultant of the force. Like here, what you have calculated here, you will get the same answer. This is the graphical method, and this is the analytical method already I have solved. Next, your principles of balancing of reciprocating parts. So your balancing of reciprocating part is as equal important as the balancing of revolving part. So here you can see the reciprocating engine mechanism. Here this is the cylinder piston arrangement, and this is the wall of the cylinder, or you can say guide. This is the P to C, this is the connecting rod having length L, and COC is the crank having radius R, and that is rotating with angular speed omega. And this distance from P to O is equal to x. These are the dimensions. And now you can see the forces. What are the forces here? One is Fi. Fi is the inertia force of the reciprocating part, and Fr is the force required to reciprocate the part, and here Fn is the normal force at the guide, at the crosshead, and this Fb is the force on the crankshaft bearing. Okay. Now this Fb can be resolved into two components. One is FBH, that is H for horizontal, that means horizontal component of Fb, and FBV, that is the vertical component, V for vertical component of Fb. Clear? As this angle is making an angle theta with this, so we are just resolving. Now here you can see this Fi and Fr equal in magnitude and opposite in direction, acting in the same point. So this Fi and Fr will be balanced state. But in this line of stroke there is another force which is FBH, that is the unbalanced force. That's why written here Fu, U for unbalanced. And this is the unbalanced force here in reciprocating engine mechanism. And another two forces are there, Fn and Fbv. Those two forces are equal in magnitude, opposite in direction, but that has been separated by a distance x. So that will produce a couple, that is Fn into x, or that will be equal to Fbv into x. that is the couple will be formed due to this Fn and FBB, and this couple is called as shaking couple. Okay. Achha. Now your unbalanced force is FBH. What will be the value of that unbalanced force? Achha. Already you can see this Fi is equal to Fr, and in the same line of stroke this FBH is acting, and the magnitude of that FBH will be equal to same as Fr. So what is that? Here you can see Fi is the inertia force. So as Fi is the inertia force, there is mass into acceleration, m is the mass, and this omega square r cos theta plus cos 2 theta by n, this is the means term of acceleration. Already that has been calculated. So we are putting it, at last we are getting this is expression, and when we are expanding it, we are getting two terms. One is m omega square r cos theta, which is Fp, denoted as Fp, that means primary unbalanced force, and second is m omega square r cos 2 theta by n, that is your secondary unbalanced force, Fs, S for secondary. So in primary unbalanced force, this is the term. So if for the cos theta, maximum value of cos theta, that will be m omega square r. Here, as the n is in the denominator, let me, your n is the ratio of L by R. Due to that, this value will be very less at moderate speed. That's why we can eliminate it or we can neglect it. And as a result, we are going for the partial balancing of unbalanced primary force in a reciprocating engine. That means we are not balancing here the unbalanced secondary force, rather the unbalanced primary force. Here we are taking the equivalent arrangement to balance it. M, mass m is rotating with angular speed omega at the point C, so at radius r. So your reciprocating force of m will be equal to m omega square r, and the component of this will be equal to m omega square r cos theta. And here this m omega square r cos theta is nothing but already we have calculated, that is the primary unbalanced force. To balance this force, we have introduced here another mass, that is B, capital B, at radius small b. So what will be the centrifugal force due to this? B omega square b. Now we can resolve B omega square b into two components. Horizontal component is B omega square b cos theta, vertical component is B omega square b sin theta. Clear? Now if this primary unbalanced force will be balanced, that means this component will be equal to this component, or you can say that will be B omega square b cos theta will be equal to m omega square r cos theta. So omega square cos theta will be cancelled out, B will be equal to mr. But if not balanced, that means why you can say it is not balanced, because except this horizontal force or the component of forces in the stroke, there is another component, vertical component, which is not in the balanced state. That's why rather balancing it completely, we have to take a fraction C, or we can say a fraction of C of the reciprocating masses will be balanced. So CMR will be equal to BB. So in place of just we are putting unbalanced force along the line of stroke, that is m omega square r cos theta minus this, and in place of BB we can just put CMR. As a result, we are getting 1 minus C this, and this is the unbalanced force along the line of stroke. What will be the perpendicular component? That will be B omega square b sin theta, and in place of B into B you just put CMR. We are getting this. This is the horizontal component, this is the vertical component. So what will be the resultant? Root over of horizontal square plus vertical square. So by simplification we are getting this. Okay. Generally your problem comes from the masses, several masses in one plane. In that case you can find out as the method I have told you analytically, that you can find it easily. So this is the assignment for you. You can solve this by that method. Clear? And already those portions I have for these portions I have referred the subject your textbooks like R.S. Khurmi, Theory of Machines by R.S. Khurmi and Theory of Machine by S.S. Ratan. You can refer all these books, or you can refer all another books to solve different problems. Thank you.